Beef with Spirit is an infusion of whiskey and beef using dry age techniques.
There's great matches out there, you know, whether it's beef and whiskey, whether it's cheese and whiskey, that really go well together and complement both characteristics of each of the ingredients.
We're not looking to change the flavour of the beef. What we're looking to do is accentuate the flavour of the beef, and we think the whiskey that we've chosen to do that really gives an amazing flavour.
So 14-year-old for Cullen, which I believe John is using in the beef, is a more robust whiskey. There's more body, more texture to the actual taste of the product. There's more flavour in there. Grain tends to be light and fluffy, as it were, where malt is more beefy, to want of a better word, but more body to it, and more complexity.
So we looked about how we could combine the two, so high-end beef from Ireland, grass-fed beef from Ireland, and then using Ireland's reputation as one of the best whiskey producers in the world, how could we almost bring the two of those things together in a synergy to create an amazing product? So that's where our initial thoughts were in developing Beef with Spirit. It wasn't until we started doing business in Japan 3 years ago that we first were introduced to the process, because it's something that's been spoken about over many years, where people would say they're aging beef in particular flavours, whiskey, fats, butters and so on. But really for me at Johnstone, we wanted to make sure we get to the essence of it, if you excuse the pun. We wanted to really get in deep and understand the traditions and the history of it. So we worked with a restaurant in Yokohama, in just outside Tokyo, to come up with a process that would suit what we do here at Johnstone, because as you can imagine, we're aging approximately 4,000 pieces of beef here on a weekly basis. So that's quite a lot of beef. And we wanted to make sure that in our environment and how we produce beef, that we didn't take away from the beef that we were producing, and that we weren't too big, that we could give it enough time and effort to really get a great product. Johnstone is a dry-aged beef company. We specialise in supplying the world's best hotels and restaurants. So let's say from Japan and Canada, and everything in between. So we concentrate mainly on 5-star and 7-star hotels, mainly centre of the plate steak. So your fillet steak, your strip loin steak, your ribeye steak, etc. But we only deal with the world's best chefs. So it makes us quite a unique company on a global marketplace.
Johnstone Beef are a company who are concentrated on producing the best quality that they can. They pursue increasing standards and quality just as much as what we do.
In Ireland, we're blessed with many distilleries in Ireland, and all of the distilleries offer something a little bit different. We were looking for a distillery that matched our ambition in terms of being a small but beautiful producer, to be big enough to be able to cope with the demand that we would have, and being small enough to care, if you will, about the customer and the final product. And we were very lucky to work with Powerscourt Distillery in terms of their time and effort to get us the whiskey and the flavour compounds that we were looking for, that we could actually taste, and that we would actually work in the process, because some of the whiskies, albeit were from big distilleries, but the flavour profile we were getting through just wasn't going to do it for us at Johnstone.
Powerscourt is a premium producer of whiskey. Everything we do, from the ground up, from the quality of the local ingredients, the local barley that we use, some of it from grown here on the estate. That is right across the board. It's all premium. The equipment that we have, the systems we have in place. We were very fortunate in having investors in the board which supported the plan to put in the very highest quality equipment that we possibly could. All the engineering works and design works and production works was done by Forsyths in Scotland, who are the absolute Rolls Royce of engineering when it comes to distilling globally. And again, that's just small increments of higher quality than is absolutely necessary, accumulate in a difference at the end of the day when it comes to tasting the whiskey.
My name is Noel Sweeney. I am the Master Distiller Blender for Powerscourt Distillery. I've been in the Irish whiskey industry since 1989, and before that I was involved in the distillation of neutral spirits for both liqueurs and vodka type products as well as pharmaceutical products. My career, I suppose, was enhanced when I was awarded the Distiller of the Year award in the International Wine and Spirits competition, and subsequently in another 4 or 5 different competitions around that time in 2008 or 9. And in March 2017 I was inducted into the Whiskey Magazine Hall of Fame. Currently I am the only second Irish distiller to be in the Whiskey Hall of Fame, and currently the only one that's actually working.
We are very, very, very fortunate to have somebody who has nearly 40 years of experience in distilling Irish whiskey, not just in distilling Scotch whiskey or American bourbon, and producing Irish whiskey of the highest calibre. And it's very, very difficult to overemphasise how important Noel has been in setting the standards that we have here in Powerscourt Distillery.
We're not whiskey producers, but we still have the Angel's share, if you will, or our accountants in the business will call it a loss. But we're both doing the same thing. We're actually losing moisture to accentuate flavour and texture.
Well, the Angel's share is basically the alcohol that gets through the wood and into the air, and that's why we call it, well, it disappears then, and of course the Angels are sipping at it. We like to think that the Angels, you know, if they take too much, we don't like it, because we have less to sell on to our customers. But at least if they're taking a fair bit, they perceive it as being good. Maturation starts when you put the spirit into the wood. You have choices in distilling as to the style of spirit that you originally produced, but when it comes to maturation, you have further choices in relation to the wood that you use. So 14-year-old for Cullen, which I believe John is using in the beef, is a more robust whiskey. There's more body, more texture to the actual taste of the product. There's more flavour in there. Grain tends to be light and fluffy, as it were, where malt is more beefy, to want of a better word, but more body to it, and more complexity.
By losing that moisture, we're accentuating the flavours, we're increasing that flavour profile, and at the end of it we get something that's worthwhile. Thankfully we don't have to age our beef for 3 years or 10 years or 14 years. We don't have to do that at Johnstone, but the Angel share is something that both businesses have in common together. It makes sense for us at Johnstone to create our whiskey aged beef, and again, as we like to call it, beef with spirit. So the most amazing beef with some of the best spirit we can find in Ireland, and we create this amazing flavour and texture that's quite unique both to Johnstone and both to a customer at the end of the day, which is the thing that we're most interested in, is to give the customer, again from Johnstone, another great eating experience. One thing, particularly for myself, when I eat out and I have steak at a restaurant, someone's always asked me, would I like a pepper sauce or would I like a butter? And I think great meat doesn't need anything. It just needs a little bit of salt and pepper. That's all it needs. In this process that we've developed for the Beef with Spirit range, it's, you know, you don't want to kill the flavors of the whiskey that's present on the outside. So again, a quick sear on the pan and then roasting in the oven is the best way to get the best from this piece of meat. Once you cook it to your liking, whether it's a rare, medium rare or well done, during the resting process I would remove it, and just for a little bit of extra special note to it, I would add a little drop of whiskey over the top of the steak just as it's resting, just to give it that final touch, and then serve as you would normally serve your steak.
The products that will be available will be sharing steaks, approximately 1 kg, in strip line, bone in, and also ribeye bone in. It will be available online on our johnstonebeefshop.com, also through our restaurant customers all around Ireland.